The cafe was quiet. A storm had passed earlier, leaving the city wrapped in gray mist and puddled sidewalks. Inside, the espresso machine hissed softly, and the clink of mugs filled the silence. Nora Thomas wiped down the last table and checked the time. 8:53 a.m., 7 minutes before opening. But the bell above the door chimed anyway. She looked up surprised. A man stood in the doorway, soaked through, hair stuck to his forehead, suit wrinkled and ruined. He was barefoot. Nora's first instinct was fear until she saw his eyes. Tired, red, lost. "Sir, we're not open yet," she said carefully. He took a step forward, clutching something to his chest. A folded document. "No wallet? No phone?" "I'm sorry," he said softly. I just need a sip." Nora blinked. A sip. He nodded toward the counter, where the coffee pot still steamed faintly. She hesitated. "I don't have any money," he added quickly. "I don't want to cause trouble. I'm just really thirsty." Something in his tone, humble, desperate, made her pause. Without a word, she turned and poured a small cup. "Black, no sugar." She set it gently on the counter. "It's hot." He walked slowly to it, hands trembling as he reached out. He didn't drink right away. He just stared at it like it meant something more than caffeine. "Thank you," he whispered. "No one else would even look at me." That's when she noticed his wrist. A $90,000 watch, still ticking. Nora's gaze flicked to the watch again. She knew luxury brands, while working at a downtown cafe, taught you what wealth looked like. And this man, despite his ruined appearance, reeked of it. She stepped back slowly. "Sir, do you need help? Like police or medical?" He looked up at her, eyes filled with something she couldn't name. Shame, fear, relief. "I don't think I should be found yet," he said softly. Nora blinked. "I'm sorry." The man chuckled, but there was no joy in it. He sipped the coffee finally, then sighed as if it breathed life into him. "I walked here from the hospital," he said. "Checked myself out." She stared. "Wait, you're sick." "No," he replied. "I'm broken." He pulled the folded document from his coat and placed it on the counter, gently, like it was fragile. Curiosity won over caution. She glanced down. It was a DNA report. She looked up. "I had a sister," he said. "She died last week in a fire. I never met her, didn't even know she existed until the test results arrived." He pointed to the name on the document. Nora Thomas. Her stomach dropped. She looked down, then back at him. "You're lying." "I'm not. I'm an only child." "No. You were adopted, you didn't know." Nora's head swam. "How do you know that?" "Because I've spent the last 3 years trying to find her. I didn't even know her name until this morning." Tears brimmed in his eyes. "I didn't come here to scare you. I just wanted to see her face. Just once." He turned to leave. Nora's voice cracked. "What's your name?" He stopped. "Julian Crane." Her knees almost buckled. The name was on the headlines every week. CEO of Crane Technologies. Widely considered a ghost rarely seen. Fiercely private. And now, crying in her cafe. Julian stood in the doorway, torn between leaving and crumbling. "I found you too late," he said softly. Nora stepped forward, stunned. "You're saying my birth mother had you and gave me up?" "She kept me," he said bitterly, "until I was 30. Then I was sent away to boarding schools. She told me I'd ruined her life. When I turned 21, I got a trust fund, a few black and white photos, and nothing else." He turned slowly. "You were raised far away, safely. She hid your name, your identity. How do you know it's me?" He pulled out his wallet now, finally revealing something. A photo. It was her, taken outside a red brick school she barely remembered. "I hired a private lab. They matched your DNA with mine from a medical database." I didn't want to believe it. Nora sat down, stunned. "So what? What do you want from me?" Julian exhaled. "Nothing." She looked at him, confused. "I came to give you this." He placed a second envelope on the table. Inside, a legal document, deed to a house, a trust, college fund. "Why?" "Because she didn't give you anything. But I can." He turned again, this time for real. Then paused. "You gave me a cup of coffee before you even knew who I was. That's more than most people have done for me my whole life." He opened the door, and I just needed a sip, because I didn't want to break down completely on the street. Then he was gone. Nora sat there, hand over her mouth, the hot coffee still steaming between them. Nora didn't sleep that night. She sat on the floor of her studio apartment, the legal deed and trust packet Julian Crane had left still unopened beside her. Her mind reeled with questions. Was it real? Was he lying? Why now? By sunrise, she had made up her mind. She had to find him. She Googled Crane Technolis but found no address. The company's headquarters was a private compound. No phone lines, no assistant names, just a vague mention of a business advisor, Helen Kraus. Nora called in sick to the cafe and took the 9:05 train downtown. At 10:22, she arrived at the law firm of Kraus and Holt. The receptionist raised an eyebrow. "I need to speak to Helen Kraus. It's about Julian Crane." "Tell her Nora Thomas is here." A beat, then another. Then, inside a high-ceilinged conference room, Helen Kraus, late 60s, composed, calculating, sat with a thick file in front of her. "You're her," Helen said simply. Nora nodded. "Why did he come to me now?" Helen's voice was dry. Because he needed closure before he disappears. What do you mean disappears? Julian is stepping down, leaving the country, donating most of his fortune. He wanted to find you first. Nora frowned. Why? Helen stared for a long moment, then slid a paper across the table. It was a revised will. I, Julian Crane, leave the controlling shares of Crane Technologies not to my board, not to my estate but to Nora Thomas, the only family I have ever trusted. Nora's stomach twisted. This has to be a mistake. Helen smiled thinly. He chose you, but there's something you should know. She pulled out a second folder, a birth certificate. Only this time, the mother Lysaide wasn't the one Nora had grown up believing gave her up. It was Julian's mother. And next to father was written, unknown. Nora left the building shaking. She didn't go home. Instead, she wandered Central Park, the will crumpled in her purse, her mind unraveling. The truth was a tangle now. Julian had said she was his sister, but the certificate said otherwise. Same mother, unknown father. That made them half-siblings if at all. Was it possible he knew? Was this just pity? Guilt? Or was there something else? By late afternoon, she couldn't hold back. She returned to the cafe, unlocked the side door, and checked the small safe under the counter where she'd stored the envelope. He left. She flipped through the trust paperwork, and there it was. A signature, a name. Dr. Alton Merrill, lead geneticist, Crane Medical Research Division. Julian hadn't gone through a public DNA lab. He'd used his own private company. Suddenly, it all clicked. He controlled the results. The match. The report. He could have made it all up. It took her 3 more days to track him down. A former driver tipped her off heady benzene at a remote coastal cabin just north of Montauk. No security, no staff. Just isolation. She drove 6 hours. The cabin was nestled between cliffs and waves, a single black car parked out front. She didn't knock. She opened the door and found Julian sitting on the floor, surrounded by childhood photos. A fire flickering weakly in the corner. He didn't look surprised. I figured you'd come. Why did you lie? She asked. He looked up slowly. She tossed the DNA report onto the floor. You controlled the results. Julian's shoulders slumped. I wanted to believe it. I needed to believe it. I asked my team to search for matches across all public and private databases. Yours came back with a 61% sibling match. Not full, not certain, but close enough. You forged the rest. I framed the rest, but only because I was afraid you'd never speak to me if I told you the truth. And the truth is, I think we had the same mother, he whispered, but I don't know. All I know is that when I saw your face, something broke in me. Nora stood silent. I don't care if we're related, he said, voice cracking. I care that you gave me a sip of coffee when I was invisible. You saw me. Tears streamed down his cheeks. I've spent my whole life building walls. But that morning, you looked down, and I finally felt seen. He looked at her, pleading. I'm not asking for family. I'm asking for truth. And whatever that becomes between us, let it be real. Nora stayed the night. Not because she forgave him, but because the cold wind outside made everything feel too fragile to leave unresolved. They didn't speak much. Julian slept on the couch. She took the only bedroom. By morning, she woke to the smell of coffee. Real, fresh coffee. What's this? She asked. A clean version of the truth. Inside were dozens of handwritten letters never sent. To the sister I never met. To the girl who didn't know she was missing, family, ... To the only person I wish I had growing up, ... Nora's throat tightened as she flipped through them. Why didn't you ever send these? Julian looked out the window. Because I didn't want to force my pain onto a stranger. Then he added, but when I walked into your cafe, and you didn't recognize me. It was the first time I didn't have to be Julian Crane. I could just be a man in need, and you gave me something I didn't know I still needed. She folded the letters back into the folder. This doesn't fix everything, I know, but it's a start. He nodded. That's when they heard it. The soft crunch of tires on gravel. Someone was here. Julian's posture shifted instantly. He grabbed his phone and checked the exterior cam feed. A sleek black SUV had pulled into the drive. Out stepped a man in a gray wool coat, late 50s balding, sharp eyes hidden behind tinted glasses. Julian swore. Who was that? Board member, he muttered. Frederick Halle. I didn't think they'd find me here this fast. What does he want? To stop what I'm about to do. He opened a drawer beneath the kitchen island and pulled out a sleek black envelope. Inside, papers transferring controlling shares of Crane Technologies to Nora Thomas with no clauses. I meant what I said. A knock at the door, then enough. Julian opened it. Halle stepped inside without invitation. He looked around with a disgusted sneer. This is where the mighty Crane disappears too. Then he spotted Nora. His eyes narrowed. You must be the coffee girl. Nora bristled. Julian stepped between them. Don't speak to her like that. Julian, Halle said calmly. You're emotionally compromised. Whatever guilt fantasy you've built with this girl, it doesn't entitle you to dismantle your life's work. The board will challenge this transfer. Julian held out the envelope. Let him try. You'll lose everything. No, Julian said. I'm giving it away. After Halle left, fuming, Nora and Julian stood alone in the echo of his footsteps. "He'll come after you," she said. Julian shrugged. "He's already tried. They've frozen accounts before, blocked donations, pressured my legal team, but they've never dealt with you." Nora looked at the envelope in her hands. "Heavy? Fragile. This world. Your world. It eats people like me. You're not like anyone I've ever met." She turned the envelope over. "You really want me to take it? Be the face of Crane Technologies?" "No, I want you to change it." Nora stepped back. She thought about the cafe, her old life, her quiet mornings, her safe routines. Then she thought about the strangers who walked in needing kindness and how many of them she could reach with power like this. The world was burning, one corporate betrayal at a time. What if she could do something about it? She looked up and nodded. "Okay," she whispered. "Let's burn it down and build something better." Julian smiled in for the first time. It wasn't sad.